This is Neutral Ice.
He scores! Backhand towards the goal, loose puck, and he scores! Tie game! Can you believe it?
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
In front, Richard! Oh, a miraculous stop by Nabokov! Oh! Campbell just destroyed a murder! Down it goes, the shot, score! Foligno scores!
Now, here are your hosts, Nick Lippa and Jack Sullivan.
It doesn't get any better than this!
On Buffalo's original alternative, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State Student Activity Fee. Welcome in, as always, on Monday nights at 8 p.m. to Neutral Ice. Thank you, everybody that is tuning in. I am Brayton Wilson here, along with everybody here in studio, except for Nick Lippa. Nick Lippa will be joining us momentarily as he's dealing with some business right now here at BNY. But in Studio B, we've got Derek Kramer.
How you doing tonight?
We've got Joe DiBiase.
I'm sad. The Sabres are winning.
That's all right. We've got Frank Arcury.
What's going on?
And then we also got the great Chris Kowalchuk.
I'm happy the Sabres are winning because I'm playing against Holtby. Go Sabres.
Yeah, in fantasy. So, all right. Well, if everybody
the Sabres could still lose 4-3.
If everybody didn't know, the Buffalo Sabres are playing right now. They're at home. The second period has literally just gotten underway. They currently lead 2-0. The first goal was scored on the power play by Tyler Ennis, and Washington tied it up with a power play goal of their own by Curtis Glencross, and then Cody Hodgson on a fluky bounce got them back on top, and the Sabres lead 2-1 with just about 30 seconds gone in the first period. So, lots to look forward to with tonight, especially with the Buffalo Sabres playing not only them, but we've also got wow, what am I thinking here? We've got Edmonton playing at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then we've also got Arizona in LA to play the Kings.
The Tank Report.
So, Tank Report is right. So, with that, tonight's going to be a very, very highly watched evening in hockey for everybody who's trying to tank out there, especially
Absolutely.
people in Buffalo, people in Arizona, people in,
Edmonton.
Yeah. So, tonight, if the Sabres lose against Washington and somehow the Oilers get a win against the Leafs, they will be 6 points ahead of the Sabres in the race for 30th.
I would expect Edmonton to get at least a point against Toronto today.
This is the laughs we're talking about here.
Toronto looked so unenthusiastic in their game against Buffalo the other night. They almost lost. Toronto, I mean, they were 3 minutes from losing to Buffalo. Edmonton's been out shooting people lately. Like, I would expect Edmonton to get at least a point. Probably two. I
can't imagine what people would be going through with the three games if the three games were being played at the same time. Actually, it's happened before already this season. It's happened a few times. And we actually have a clip from our broadcaster, Gord Duff. He was broadcasting game earlier this year, and this is what it sounded like earlier. So here we go.
4:08 left to go here in the second period, and the Sabres trail the Hurricanes 4-0. At this point, the Sabres are looking pretty good in terms of the standings, still remaining 4 points ahead of the Oilers for last place. Here's Hodgson with a shot that goes wide. What is this? What? The Oilers are losing? How could you be losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs? With the talent that you have on that team, you shouldn't lose games. You've had the top 10 pick for the past 10 years, and you still can't win? I mean, really? You can go out to a 3-0 lead, sure, but no! You can't even hold a 3-0 lead against a team like the Hurricanes! Why? I don't even care about this game. We're being outshot 31-6 out there. And now the Coyotes are tied to the Ducks. Are you kidding me? There's so much at stake here, and you're blowing it. Don't you want to get the 3rd or 4th pick in the draft? Come on! Great, just great. The Sabres scored. Now it's 4-1, and we're not going to be able to get McDavid. The season is a failure. The Sabres are going to end up finishing with the 3rd pick, and it's going to be worth nothing. Nothing! Well, that's the end of the second period. The score is 5-1 after the second. Where did I miss that 5th goal? Anyways, we'll be back for the 3rd period.
Oh, very nice.
Curious
Very nice.
to know what network that was on.
That was on the Armed Forces Network. Oh, Gord Duff.
Good Lord.
Gord Duff, we've heard from him a few times already this year. Yes.
That guy should probably try and do a better job paying attention to the game he's at.
Well, you heard him. He said he didn't even care. The shots were 31-6 at that point in the second period. In the second period.
It wound up 31-7, if it helps, because then the Sabres scored.
Yeah, but
So
It's the next Doc Emmerich right there.
right. Yeah. So
they'll just be talking about someone's college, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
that's a thing.
And
yeah.
then Peter McGuire gives some quirky fact about the player's childhood. So, I don't know how he knows that.
Because he's creepy Pierre McGuire. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. Makes a lot of sense.
Makes all of the sense.
All right. Well, update from the Buffalo Sabres game. By the way, the Buffalo Sabres game is the game of the night
Yay.
here on. I don't know
Neutral
what I
Ice.
was doing. Yes, Neutral Ice. The game of the night here on Neutral Ice. Currently still 2-1. Washington just killed off a Buffalo Sabres power play. So,
Big surprise.
yeah, no, nothing.
Fun fact: Ovechkin with the Tyler Ennis power play goal tonight. The Sabres have officially tied Alex Ovechkin for power play goals for the entire season.
Yeah, that's something to get through your head.
21 goals for Ovechkin on the power play, 21 goals for the Sabres, and it's March 16th.
You get that through your head?
And we still might not finish last.
That Tortorella drop is that's great.
Oh yeah. Well,
Hi, Lipa.
oh
Nicholas going to be joining us soon.
He's going to be joining us soon.
yeah. Well, hopefully he's joining us. So.
Um,
There he
hi,
is.
Lipa.
There's Nick Lipa. We were waiting for you to get back. Nick Lipa has returned.
Yay.
A glorious return. He's dropping his earbuds on my computer.
Well, yeah, come on. That's Lipa style right there.
Yeah, so, well, our host of our show is back, Nick Lipa. Thank you for rejoining us here. We were wondering where you were.
Hey guys, I was just doing my day job, which is attending to the male escort lines. I was quickly just telling beautiful women how beautiful I am and what I do to them.
Nick, next time you're going to be late, you should probably text me. I was really worried about you.
Chris, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you better be.
Mom,
That's the last
Dad,
thing.
please stop fighting.
We're not fighting. I'm apologizing. Chris Kowalchuk is absolutely right. Chris, I'm sorry. I can't wait to just feel your face after today's show.
And I might not stay after the show.
That's not true!
Yeah, that's true.
That being said, so topics of discussion. Obviously, we talked about the Buffalo Sabres right now, up 2-1. People, everybody, just celebrate. That deserves a clap. That deserves a clap. That deserves. That is very true. The Buffalo Sabres are up 2-1. Cherish it, Sabres fans, because I'm gonna put it right now. It's gonna last about 10 more minutes of game time before that's gone. That being said,
Big save by Lindback.
yeah. Oh man, Anders Lindback is like I don't know. He's like moldy coffee cake. At first, it seems like a good idea, and then afterwards, you're just like, oh, I feel crappy now.
I feel like bad.
And some mold is cheese. This is not.
I feel like Anders Lindback.
If anybody, to the one person out there in the past 20 years that's eaten moldy coffee cake, he understands. That being said, some topics of discussion today. What have you guys hit on so far?
We played a highlight of our very own Gord Duff at a Sabres game while there was the Oilers and the Coyotes playing.
Oh, that's intense. The Oilers and Coyotes. Well, we'll start with this right now. So let's talk about the tank for the McDavid, the quest for McEichel. And hey, hold on, I know he's getting it. Where is it coming from?
There it is.
The quest for McEichel.
Oh man, I could use that. We need to turn that up like 30 decibels. So can we do it again? One more time for all listeners out there. What is this? What is this? Tell me.
The quest for McGeico.
There we go. The quest for McEichel. So the quest for McEichel, right now, the Sabres come in leading the quest for McEichel by 4 points over Edmonton, although a game at hand, and right now Buffalo leading over Washington, and we'll get to why Washington needs this win just as much as Buffalo needs this loss in a second. But Buffalo 4 points ahead of Edmonton with a game on hand, and the Coyotes are 6 points, I believe, correct? Ahead of the Sabres as well, right?
That is true.
That is true. And then everybody else is just an afterthought. They have no chance at this point, essentially, realistically, unless the Sabres won on their 11-game win streak right now. And they were hot, but I don't know. I'm not big on guys like Verone stepping up to lead the Sabres on a 10-game win streak or Anders Lindback.
Yeah, I was going to say also, you can't rely on moldy coffee cake.
Moldy coffee cake does not do it.
I'm going to be that jerk and say it's Veroni. Phil Veroni.
Veroni. I'm sorry. That's not a jerk. That's proper.
That's propers.
That being said.
Plus, I don't know what a winning streak is as a Sabres fan.
Oh, you should. It happened earlier this year.
Yeah, it was back in what?
A long time
They're
ago.
showing McDavid on NBC Sports, and now they're showing Eichel.
Yeah.
Watch this wraparound goal by
They
Eichel.
have to give the puck to Eichel. If we get Eichel, we have to feed him the puck all the time.
Oh my God! I swear it's gonna be like Jaromir Jagr 3.0.
Speaking of Eichel, Jack Eichel. It's amazing to say this because Jack Eichel has 61 points.
Go!
No one looks mad. I think I see him turning blue. Is that brown now?
I'm leaving.
Sabres! I was wrong. It only lasted about 3 minutes in game time, so it is now 2-2.
That was 6 of the year.
That was impressive.
That was very impressive. Why don't you do soccer games?
Well, anyways.
I may in the future. So continue what you were saying, Brayden.
Getting back to my point, Jack Eichel in 34 games with the Boston Terriers this year as a freshman, 61 points.
And
Leads
the
the
fourth
nation.
youngest player in the nation.
To put that in
17
perspective,
years old.
Hudson Fasching is,
18.
is somewhere, I think, along the lines of who is also playing at a very high level right now in the NCAA, is 15 to 20 points behind that, I believe.
Yeah.
And he is, how you say, a much older player.
Yeah. I mean, he was drafted 2013. Yes, 2013. I don't remember what round he was, but still, fourth.
Yeah,
Right. Thank you, Joe. With Hudson Fasching, he fourth rounder. He's got the size advantage over Eichel. However, Hudson Fasching is a completely different player than Jack Eichel, and I think we all are in agreement with that.
Oh, 100%.
Hudson Fasching is one of those players that will just park himself right in front of the net, and he loves to do that. He loves to agitate people in front of the net, loves to cash in on those juicy rebounds that are left up.
Juicy juice rebound.
And Jack Eichel is just one of those skilled players who's willing to do just about anything to help his team win.
Yep.
Yeah, Fasching's more of like a physical player. Not to say Eichel can't be physical, because, I mean, he is 6'2", already almost 200 pounds. But, I mean, that's not the main part of his game. That's skill for Eichel.
Either way, looking at this right now, it's going to be very interesting. We all know going towards the draft what's going to happen right now. But the reality of it right now is the Sabres, they need to win a couple of games, and Edmonton needs to lose historically bad. We thought Arizona was going to catch up, but Arizona, I think, they're even 6 points out. I mean, it's pretty hard. If you think the Sabres are only going to win 3 more games for the rest of the year.
But remember, that can easily be caught up to because of the fact that we play Arizona twice.
Very true. That being said, let's say Buffalo wins 3 more games and 2 of them are against Arizona. You're counting on Arizona losing out the rest of the year. Yeah, that's just not realistic.
That's true.
So it's very hard right now.
And besides tonight, Arizona they play in LA, and then after that they have a 4-game homestand after just finishing a 5-game homestand.
There are too many good teams left on the schedule for all of these teams to face for them to really get too many wins. And that includes the Sabres. Especially when you look at a team in the West, I mean, anybody who's facing, for Edmonton's sake, you look at those Western teams, it's like every Western team. They're a pretty decent team besides, you want to say about 3 Western teams, really 2, essentially. Arizona and Edmonton.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the West is like, well, they're not a train wreck. No, nobody screams that. while in the
Well,
East.
there are 14 teams in the West and 16 in the East, and 12 of the 14 teams are basically in playoff contention at this point.
Very true, but when you look at the East, you could get to the point of the Devils where you're going, well, they're a train wreck minus Corey Schneider for the most part, and then Adam Larson.
Does anybody want to take a gander at who's the next worst team in the West that's not Edmonton or Arizona?
Ooh.
San Jose?
No.
Colorado.
No.
Dallas.
Yes. Dallas.
Yeah.
74 points for Dallas. Colorado has 75. Dallas has been 3-4 in their last 10, and Colorado's on a 2-game win streak and have been 7-3 in their past 10 games.
Talk about two teams, and let's segue into that right now as far as what went wrong for the teams that didn't make them. That's going to be the segment now on Neutral Ice. What went wrong? The teams that are pretty much out of playoff contention right now unless a miracle happens. And we'll start with the Dallas Stars. What went wrong for them this year? One of the things I'll mention, 4 shootout losses doesn't help when you can't win shootouts. Chris, you know.
We were actually not bad at shootouts this year.
But they weren't good either.
4-7 is a major improvement from 0
Well, I was going to
that's
say
my
from
point, though.
last
4
year,
and
that's
7's a
still.
major
That's why I said on personal experience. But what went wrong for the Stars this year? I'll start off right now. Well, Tyler Seguin obviously got hurt during their main playoff push. That went wrong. When you want to talk about the Stars, their defense fell apart like a bad game of Jenga. And looking also into the future right now, just a really, really bad backup goaltending situation. Everybody knows who their backup goalie was as well, behind Lettinen.
Coffee cake.
So what else went wrong for the Stars, guys?
You pretty much had it right on there, especially with how bad the defense was. It also turned into Kari Lettinen not playing as well. When Lettinen wasn't having the bad season, and then Blimback's your backup, Lindy Ruff's in a very tough spot.
Goaltending as a whole, because you also have to mention that prospect Jack Campbell. Granted, it doesn't have anything to do with the Stars, but goaltending as a whole took a big step back this year, and that's probably one of the easiest ways to end up with some sort of problems.
So I think we're all in agreement that a big thing that needs to happen for the offseason for the Dallas Stars is to upgrade, whether it's goaltending or goaltending coaching staff or something like that.
I don't know how easily done that is, though, because
it's difficult. Yeah, it is difficult.
See, I don't feel like they're going to be able to do that. They do need to. I don't know if that's available to them. They don't have. I don't feel like they have enough to trade versus a team like Buffalo or I feel like Arizona's going to be looking for a replacement for Mike Smith at some point. But these are teams I feel like have more depth in their youth that they can trade for a better goaltender. Dallas doesn't have a ton of that, I don't think, because they're going to want their young guys to play right away.
Right.
I'm going to say more Dallas needs to work on their defense, because as I said, their defense is what was probably, I think, the worst part of their team this season, which translated into how really, I wouldn't say how bad, but how Kari Lettinen played.
Trevor Daley was their best defenseman this year. Honestly, that can be said. Klingberg came in and played very well, but you can't rely on a rookie to be a top pair defenseman right as he's coming into the NHL, especially when you're trying to become a playoff team. They need major improvements on their D. I think they definitely need an upgrade in net. They could probably use a couple more role-playing forwards too. They don't have a ton of scoring depth either. Like, most of their scoring comes from their big 3 guys.
Now
Ben,
here's
Spezza, and Sadie.
a question for you guys. Does Lindy Ruff get fired at the end of the season?
No,
Not
I don't
yet,
think so.
No? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I think I'll say this though. Honestly, even if they miss the playoffs next year, but they're still in contention, I think he probably still has another shot. But if they flame out next year, he's gone. He's got a lot of pressure on him next year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Next year he's got a ton of pressure because, most of his team that is there right now is going to be back. He's just got to get, upgrades on defense, upgrades in net. One player that is going to be a huge help for the Dallas Stars in the upcoming future is 2014 14th overall pick Julius Honka.
He almost made the
Finland.
roster this year.
Yes, he did.
They raved about him and how hard he worked in camp and worked with a lot of the older players.
And he moves the puck extremely well. 53 games with the Texas Stars in the AHL, 7 goals, 14 assists. He's a -11 with 39 penalty minutes. However,
they had a lot of problems this year.
He also did play for Finland at the World Juniors and was one of their top 3 players throughout the whole tournament. So Julius Honka is going to be an extremely valuable asset to their future, and I'm sure that they're going to try Jim Nill. Jim Nill, he's a very, very smart general manager. He worked under Ken Holland in Detroit for years. He finally got his general managing chance with Dallas. Don't count out the Stars this offseason to make some surprises and some waves this offseason with making some moves. So I think that the Dallas Stars, if they don't make the playoffs this year, they will rebound somehow, some way, because Jim Nill's not just going to sit here and say, oh, we're in a great position right now. I'm sure he's going to look for some goaltending options. He's going to look for probably a new goaltending coach. Maybe Artis Urbe, if whoever the new coach is in the Buffalo Sabres organization gets fired and the whole staff gets fired along with him. So.
Yeah. I just want to add on to that. When you look at Honka right now, just to give people a perspective, if you would have done a redraft, Honka, you could make an argument would have been a top 5 pick with the redraft right now for some teams. I know a lot of people like Bennett, Reinhart, Draisaitl, but let me ask you this right now: would Edmonton be happier right now with Draisaitl or a guy like Honka potentially coming on that defense?
Well, it's Edmonton. They always. But I mean, it's so easy. It's.
If you got a do-over and you're Winnipeg, you're taking Myers over Bogosian.
At this point, it's so hard to even think about a redraft
because
right
it's
now
only 1 year away.
Exactly.
You would say this though. He would go over Hayden Fleury, who was the second defenseman drafted.
Yes,
I think that would.
Yeah,
I could say that
probably. But Hayden Fleury and Julius Honka play 2 totally different games. That's the thing. Hayden Fleury is a very good 2-way defender. Who's very physical. However, Julius Honka can move the puck way, way more efficiently than Hayden Fleury. Not only that, Hayden Fleury 6'4". Julius Honka is 5'11" and 175 pounds. He needs to get bigger. He needs to build himself up more in order to have an effect. So
the Dallas Stars, I would not be surprised to see them go after a big defenseman either in the draft or in free agency upcoming. I know they have one in Texas, I believe, or in juniors.
Isn't there
Jamie Alexiak? Yep.
Yeah.
Jamie Alexiak. He's been in and out of the lineup for the Stars in Dallas because he's just been called up and sent back down, called up, sent back down.
But they don't feel he's ready. That's the problem.
Not quite yet, but I mean he's been in the system for 2 or 3 years now. I mean, how much longer are you going to let him just sit down there, or how much longer are you going to let him, give him in order to be able to develop into a full-time NHLer?
Next season he'll be on the team.
You would think, but again, if he's not, then you're even more pressure for a guy like Lindy Ruff. But I think most people in Dallas now realize what people in Buffalo realized about 3 years ago, and that's Lindy Ruff is just not the guy to get you to a cup for your team. And I think that's what's happening in Dallas right now. You look at Dallas; they're the most prolific offense in the NHL, especially when they're on. They're monsters. However, even with it, you can be the most prolific offense in the NHL, arguably, and not be near a playoff spot right now. Something goes wrong there, and something's not right. And you got to look at coaching at that spot because there's obviously an abundance of talent on the Dallas Stars team right now. And yes, they need defensive help. And yes, Lehtinen could play better. But by the statistics, Lehtinen hasn't been the worst goalie in the year. He hasn't been good, but he hasn't been the worst goalie in the year. And when you have an abundance of offense, you should be a little bit better in the standings, I think. And
they went out and acquired Jonas Enroth to try and help Kari Lehtinen and help that goaltending situation. And Enroth has done almost nothing.
Doesn't matter who they throw back there. And one more throw out for the Stars as well. The defense. Klingberg is going to be a very good defenseman for the future for the Stars.
Yes.
Everybody realized that. I mean, you could make an argument in consideration for he won't be anywhere near it, but just the rookie trophy, the Calder. Yes, but that being said, should move on from the Stars. The Philadelphia Flyers. Here's another team that you look at. What went wrong with the Flyers this year? Again, same thing. I'll start off with it like I did with the Stars. Doesn't help when you don't win your shootouts. One of the statistics out there, Claude Giroux's 1 for 10 in shootouts this year. That obviously doesn't help when one of your top playmakers. Giroux's had some weird stuff going on this past month and a half, 2 months. You got to think he's banged up or something's going on because his point production has not been there at the similar place it was the first half of the season. But what's going on? What went wrong with the Flyers? What's your top points, guys, on what went wrong with the Flyers and why they're probably not going to be in the playoffs this year?
Well, for one thing, Steve Mason can't stay healthy to save his life. I think he's played decent when he's been in the lineup, but he just hasn't been healthy. And Ray Emery is not. He's not going to take you anywhere as a starter. He really never was. Their defense. I mean, who's their best defense right now? Mark Streit.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, they don't have a lot of. Samuel Moran, I think, should be in their lineup next year. I wanted the Sabres to get him actually a little bit over Zadorov at the time of the draft. So I really like him as a prospect. But other than that, they don't have a ton of guys I think I could say that are going to come right in next year and make them that much of a better team. So, I mean, they have 2 superstar forwards, and everything else is just kind of average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the Flyers?
Honestly, yeah, go ahead,
I was
Frank.
going to say, yeah, their defense really has not been that good. If Mark Stride's your best defenseman, I like Stride. I think he's a good puck mover, but he's not a number one defenseman on the team. And it's the same thing with Dallas. Their defense, it's pretty solid, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on it. And then the goaltime. Mason hasn't been the best this year. He's been in and out of the lineup. And then Emery won't be carrying
Ray
their
Emery's
team at
Ray
all.
Emery.
He's Ray Emery, yeah.
And
then Giroux and Voracek have had monster seasons. Wayne Simmons, I thought, has probably been but besides Giroux and Voracek, he's been their best player. He's easily developing into all-star. Yeah, an all-star.
A very good player, yes.
Probably a guy, and probably he's still pretty young too, and he's pretty much a leader on that team. He's already got an assistant captain.
Yeah, Wayne Simmons has been impressive for that team, and again, you guys have put the nail on the head here. The defense is something that they need to work on. And could you imagine what it would have been like for Philly in this offseason if they didn't trade injury-prone Braden Coburn, to whom then got hurt in Tampa? So nice job, Philly. There, way to dodge a bullet and get some assets back.
They do get Radko Gudas in return, who can't even play for them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's true, but they also aren't going to the playoffs this season.
No, they are not. But the Flyers, a lot went wrong. You saw them get on a bit of a hot streak, and technically they still could make a run at the playoffs if the Bruins died and the Senators died. But
not if the Hamburglar has anything to say about it.
not if that. Well, we're going to actually talk about the Hamburglar, and we're going to talk about more about the Sabres and why the Washington Capitals need to win this game just as much as the Sabres need to lose. Sorry, I got my wording there. Next on Neutral Ice. .3 FM WBNY Buffalo. You are listening to Neutral Ice on Buffalo's original alternative. Here, the score between Washington and Buffalo currently, if you're wondering, is 2-2. And the topic we are tackling next is why Washington needs to win this game just as much Buffalo needs to lose it in the quest for McEichel. So, guys, who can tell me?
The quest for McEichel.
Joe can tell you.
Joe is going to tell me right now why this game means so much to Washington. Joe?
At the moment, the Ottawa Senators have won 8 of their last 10 games. They are on fire.
And by the way, 8 of those last 10 games, who started in the 2 losses for Ottawa?
Craig Anderson.
If Scott Sterling started, they'd be 82-0.
Yes.
However, you're right, Craig Anderson. And so the Hamburglar is 8-0 in his past 8 games.
He has brought Ottawa back into playoff contention. Now, they are only 5 points out of Boston, which is the next team ahead of them. I believe that Washington's more easily attainable for them. They have 2 games in hand on Washington. 3 of Ottawa's the next 3 games for Ottawa. Carolina. This should be you'd like to say it's an easy game, but not that good a team. Then they play Boston. They could gain 2 points on Boston. It's a 4-point game, and then they play Toronto.
Oh, yes, the laughs.
So you're looking at it right now. It's almost a guarantee that Ottawa's going to get 4 points from these next 3 games.
And if they get that win against Boston, which could be one of the bigger games of the season, and I would doubt that they're going to start Craig Anderson this time against them. I mean, those are 3 huge games that and then they go San Jose. I mean, there's a scenario where they could be looking to be in a playoff spot by the end of next week if all goes well. Washington's only won 4 of their last 10. They're falling. So that's why this game against Buffalo is huge, because Washington is being caught up to right now.
And that's why Braden Holtby is starting back-to-back games this week when you look at it.
Well, and Peters their backup was hurt, so they didn't really want to throw Grubauer in
exactly.
Right off the minors, so
yeah,
they're going to rely on Holtby the rest of the season probably.
This is a game they can't afford to lose. That being said,
Braden Holtby, he's been very, very good this year. He's in the top 10 of goalie statistics basically everywhere. He's second in shutouts.
Top 5, arguably.
Top 5 in the league, basically.
Overall, you would pretty much put him as the number 3 goalie again, like we said last week, next to Carey Price, Pecorine, and then you're going to have Braden Holtby.
Dubnyk, maybe?
Braden Holtby, Devin Dubnyk. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Dubnyk hasn't been doing it all year, though, like Holtby has.
Oh, yeah.
The only difference.
But, I mean, with the resurgence of the Minnesota Wild actually may vault themselves into a spot in the top 3 of the Central by the playoffs. They might knock off the Blackhawks, or I don't even know, the Blues maybe.
And
Actually,
we will get to that shortly, but let's focus right now on the Capitals in this Eastern playoff race. Right now, the Washington Capitals badly need to win. Now, here's the deal: Braden Holtby's 1-3-1 his past back-to-back games, and when you look at it right now, the second period is almost done, and the game is 2-2 right now.
Are the shots still in Buffalo's favor?
No, it was last I saw. It was the shots this period were 13-5. Shots last period were 15-11.
So Sabres doing a pretty good job in comparison to most games, getting the puck on net this game.
They're actually shooting the puck?
I know, big surprise. But that being said, again, if you're looking at it realistically as a Sabres fan, getting a player, again, we've said this multiple times, so we won't go into it too much, getting a player like McDavid or Eichel, this is a reason why you don't mind watching your team lose. You never want to watch your team root for your team to lose or anything like that. But again, I make the comparison as a Bills fan. Do you want Andrew Luck or do you want Blaine Gabbert? And I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one for you because those. And that's, I'm not saying the drop off is that bad between the second and third pick, but dear Lord, the security is. I'll tell you that much. So, looking at this right now, Washington needs to win because there's a very realistic possibility that Boston, the way they've been playing, will keep playing well, and Ottawa is going to fight their way in. If you're going to keep that playoff spot, if you're Washington, you're going to have to start winning games at a more consistent pace at the end of the season.
This is a game that you need to win. It's one of those where if you drop it and you end up out of the playoffs, it's just like, yeah, we should have beat that Buffalo team. That's just poo.
Or you look at it in the past and you go, what was the turning point? Where was it where you realized you were just like, oh, we're not going to make it, and that this could be the game.
Lost to Buffalo would do it.
Yeah, it would. So a big game for Washington on back-to-back. I mean, it's convenient scheduling if you're going to have a back-to-back game.
Well, even if the Sabres take the Capitals to a shootout for some reason,
at least you get a
point. Even with the point, even if they still win, it's not a regulation or overtime win that the Capitals will get.
Huge.
Let's say that they tie the last wild card spot with Ottawa, and Ottawa has more regulation overtime wins. Washington's out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a lot of big scenarios right now, but keep an eye. We're going to keep talking about this next week about where Ottawa is. We're going to see how they do. Like Joe said, they got a big matchup in the middle of this week against Boston.
So humongous.
It is so humongous big, you know.
And real quick, Ottawa still plays Washington Saturday, April 4th, so that will be a huge game if they're still in the playoff run.
Yeah, I guarantee, unless Ottawa loses 3 straight games, they're going to be in a playoff. They're going to be in playoff contention, essentially. So, and again, looking at that schedule, like you mentioned, Joe, Ottawa realistically will win those games. Washington and Boston, it's on to you. The pressure's on. And Florida, we're not even mentioning Florida anymore just because, again, it's just Ottawa's passed them up. They're just too hot. So,
That makes me a sad
all right, do we have a sad cart to play so we can, in memoriam for what we're going to say is just the end of the Florida Panthers playoff race hopes, essentially?
I will never give up on my Florida Kittens.
Yeah.
There's always a chance.
R.I.P. Florida Panther playoff dreams and hopes. I'm calling them dead.
Yager will inspire.
All I'm saying is they had an open
And they had
goalie
Danny
tryout
Heatley.
today.
Thank you, Joe.
That was not real though. It wasn't. They're not. That goalie's not actually going to play.
Obviously,
It was
but
for a contest.
they still had an open goalie tryout.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
Linda Cohn was there.
Unless
Dan Ellis is playing well.
Unless 2015 is going to be the year 20 years from now, they remake a movie called Invincible 2 where Dick Vermeil's coaching the Florida Panthers. I don't think open tryouts are going to help your team too much at this point. So I'm with Chris on that one. But that being said, we're gonna transit. Yeah, it really is. But Florida again, they've been playing extremely average, and extremely average right now will not get you into the playoffs. So that being said, moving on, the Western Conference guys. You guys were talking about Minnesota, and Brayton, why don't you give us a little bit of information about the Minnesota Wild and how good the Minnesota Wild have been?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Minnesota Wild have been really, really good lately.
How good are they?
They were in the bottom 20, let's say, it was probably, 3 months ago they were in the bottom 20? They were in the bottom 20 of the NHL. Currently, right now, they have 83 points. They are 12th in the league, and they have gone 7-3 in their past 10 games.
And am I correct? I think I heard this. Dubnyk has started every game since he's been traded.
Yes, every
Nuts.
game.
Wow.
It's like I think it's
Devin
somewhere like
Dubnyk. He's
31
so hot right
consecutive
now.
starts.
It's dirty.
I don't remember the exact total, but
How do you do that?
You ride the hot hand. That's
No, I mean, like, as a goalie, how do you manage to do that and still
conditioning.
Ask Corey Schneider.
And he didn't play a ton of games at the beginning of the season either.
Lots of up downs.
That's true.
Dubnyk has been absolutely terrific. You're right. You can make an argument that he's been just as good as the Pecorini just because of how good he's been this past year. Let me ask you guys a question right now. So, everybody confident the Wild are going to have a playoff spot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm confident, yes.
Okay. And I would say 95% would be my ratio.
I'd step it up to 97.
That's a little much
Thanks,
for
Derek.
me. That's a little much for me just because I'm looking at that LA is still that first team out.
Yeah.
You don't know who they're kicking out.
Yeah,
so. But I would agree that they're probably making it.
Again, as I said, they could very well put themselves in a central spot instead of being a wild card team. Currently, right now in the Central Division, the Wild are, they are 5 points out. And it's feasible. It's
especially
feasible.
with the injury Chicago suffered.
Yeah.
So looking at, but I want to ask you guys this question right now: is Minnesota at this moment the most feared team in the Western Conference?
I think you can put up a very good case for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I wouldn't necessarily sing against.
Who would you rather face in the playoffs, the Anaheim Ducks or the Minnesota Wild?
The only team I can make an
Ducks.
argument maybe is St. Louis, but I would put them ahead of everyone else.
But then
Nashville's dropping. Chicago doesn't have Kane. Anaheim, I think, is still a little bit fluky of how good they've been.
Anaheim does not. They don't look like they're that team with all those points.
And no one fears the 3 Western Canadian teams either. So, I mean, Minnesota, honestly, second best team in the West right now. Like at least, that's very debatable.
You know who's falling off the map right now is Winnipeg is starting to bend.
I still think they'll make it though.
They are only 1 point ahead of the Kings for the last wild card
What did we say, Braden? What did we say?
Goaltending, and you never know with this team.
Yeah. And then
I think you and me were the only ones that said the Jets weren't going to make the playoffs.
No Winnipeg. They didn't just say you never put any faith in Winnipeg goaltending.
In my final projections, I do, but I mean, I kind of projected out the rest of the year just based on schedule and everything. But I mean, I'm still on that firm belief that Winnipeg is not a playoff team. I mean, until they clinch a playoff spot.
I'll tell you, I thought with the trades they made that they'd be able to kind of bump themselves up a little bit, but those are just temporary, and they're dealing with severe injuries right now on that team that are really hurting them. There's too many good teams in the West to be able to, again, you can't play average at this time of the year and expect to get into the playoffs. It's just not going to happen, and I'll tell you right now, is Winnipeg playing average hockey?
Oh, yeah. Only average.
So when you're looking at it right now, the Kings, I think, are going to be in the playoffs when you get to that. I would not want to face Minnesota. If I'm the two, who would, theoretically speaking, let's say Minnesota catches the Blackhawks. Who does Minnesota face?
Probably Nashville.
Man, I would not feel good if I was Nashville after the year I had.
No way.
But would you rather play Chicago for them? I mean,
yes. With the injury that Chicago suffered, I would much rather face. I would much rather face Chicago than Minnesota because Dubnyk's been a monster. Minnesota, you're talking about their depth now with having a guy like Chris Stewart as well further down after that trade for Buffalo.
Especially with that line, I think the line with since Stewart's there, he's been playing. I've seen him play with Koivu too, and
he looks like a good AHL player. Yeah. Just what Tim Murray said he was.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I believe that Central Division crown is way more important for Nashville than it is for St. Louis.
Yes,
because Nashville, I think, will have a really tough time playing either Chicago or Minnesota
in the
first round. I think St. Louis will probably be favored. If Nashville can draw Winnipeg or Vancouver or Calgary in the first round, that's huge for them.
Wait, who? Nashville?
If Nashville, to me, they need to win the division.
They need to win the division, absolutely. Yeah, and they have to face a wild card team. But here's the thing: St. Louis has 2 games in hand on the Nashville Predators, and they're tied for points right now at 93. Now, if you're looking for my opinion, Nashville with their little losing streak they had, they went 2-8 in the past 10 games.
Yeah.
It's not looking good for Nashville right now. I'd be worried if I'm Nashville. I mean, Pecorine has stood on his head, but when he's out of the lineup or he can't play, Nashville has been
They're
in
not
a
even a
little bit of
playoff
trouble.
team. They're not even a playoff team with Pecorine doesn't play.
And they're healthy too.
Yeah,
they're healthy. They don't have a major injury on that team.
And I mean, it's not even. I mean, I don't know if Pecorine is really the reason, because Carter Hutton, when he's played, Carter Hutton has been bad. It's just, I think that when Pecorine is in the lineup starting in net, I think Nashville plays way better around him. And when he's not in the lineup, Nashville tends to make more mistakes, and they tend to, not be on top of their game.
Do we think this may be a product of them not doing enough at the deadline?
That could be.
Because
they
they
probably
didn't do a
need
lot.
to do more.
Santorelli and Franzen was a good trade for them, but I mean that's not affecting the team.
Santorelli's only a third line forward at best,
right,
especially on this team.
And on that team, Franzen's playing third pairing minutes. Honestly,
yeah.
So I mean they are good players, but they're not key players to make their team win.
When you make moves, to make your team win. That's the goal. And Nashville didn't necessarily do that. Teams like Minnesota, getting Chris Stewart, is he contributing points? Yes.
And the Dubnyk trade.
And Dubnyk, yes.
To your last point, for teams to make trades to win, Buffalo, they made trades to win.
Oh, what did they make a trade to win, though?
The Tank Report.
Oh, boy. But that being said, you're looking at Nashville's in a very bad spot. Let's just say Nashville got their crap together, which they won't. I'll give you a neutralized guarantee right now. Nashville is not going to get their crap together, and St. Louis is going to get the first place
Lock
spot.
it up.
I'm locking it up right now. If you got money in Vegas and that's a bet, you're going to make a lot of money if you take my advice right now. That being said, if the Blues were to finish second and Minnesota were to catch third, I would make an argument that would be basically the Western Conference Finals in round one. That would just be absolutely insane. With the way these two teams have been playing. They are very impressive. They're two of the most impressive teams we have seen, I think, in the NHL all year, what the level they're playing with Dubnyk and how good. I mean, guys like Tarasenko. Oshie's the fifth leading scorer, I believe, on the Blues. Really? And you talk about productivity with all those guys. That's disgusting. Blues have a great roster. The Wild have have a great roster.
I'm looking at Minnesota's stats right now. They have 13 players over 20 points.
Yep.
That's really good. That's really
that's
balanced.
Deep.
And want to take a gander at Devin Dubnyk's numbers since going to Minnesota too?
I'm scared.
Well, 27 straight games. Yeah, he is 20 wins, 5 regulation losses, and 2 overtime shield losses. 1.66 goals against a .940 save percentage. That's
Who's this?
scary.
Devin Dubnyk.
And that's
Devin
without
Dubnyk,
a day off. That's incredible.
Without a day off, yeah.
It's incredible.
And that puts him. That gives everybody a reason to put him in the top 3.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question right now. And the only reason I'm asking this is because you saw what happened when Nashville lost Pecorine, right? Mm-hmm. So there's one other team in the NHL that depends on their goalie like no other that's actually winning right now. Because Corey, obviously the Devils, they need Corey Schneider, but the Montreal Canadiens are the other team that heavily rely on Carey Price. Yeah. So what happens if Carey Price gets injured this next week?
Very similar to what happened last year,
or something. Yes,
I was going to say the Eastern Conference Finals. They kind of fell off the map.
And then all of a sudden the Canadians lose. I mean, is that the point where you go, well, Holtby has been, the Capitals have been struggling recently. Rene has been out for the Predators. Is that the point where all of a sudden you see Dubnyk come up and steal the goalie discussion right now about who's been the best if he finishes the year out like he started since Minnesota?
Man.
Can you make a point? And this is my question I have for the neutralized crew. Can you make a point for an award for a player who was given a chance at the basically the All-Star break-ish point? Mm-hmm. To start, can you make an award for how good somebody's been just on a half of the season?
Yeah, I think they should, because last year that should have been Mary Gabourik's award, because when he came to the Kings, a fire was lit under him. Playoffs, he could have easily been the Conn Smythe winner. They gave it to Justin Williams, but I mean, he had the most points in the Stanley Cup Finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs with I think 14 he had.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he led the playoffs in goals.
I think he had 14 goals, but he had more points than that. So. Yeah, I think obviously they should maybe make an award for like the best second half player. Although I don't know how well that would go around the league, but still, it's just.
But still, it's like, and Dubnyk has elevated himself to legitimate award consideration based on how he's been doing in this season, even if it's been only a halfway through the season acquisition. It's just unreal the kind of production he's been putting up.
And you're absolutely right. And when you look at it, you guys already sound like you have 2 guys in mind the past 2 years that would have definitely been beneficiaries of it and deserve to be recognized. And that's the point of awards, is to appropriately recognize some of the best players in the league and their accomplishments during the specific years. And when you look at a guy like Dubnyk for what he's done, he may get no recognition whatsoever for what he's done in Minnesota unless he makes a cup run, which is honestly looking like it's a very realistic possibility for the Wild right now.
Steven Stamkos, I was just watching that highlight. Sorry about that. He's just unbelievable player.
Oh,
In neutral ice, other news: Steven Stamkos is a good player.
In other
It's
news,
the hottest
Tampa Bay is
takes.
just a really good team.
You know, we were just watching that. I think Stamkos would hit that shot 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
Wow. Good analysis, Chris Collinsworth.
It's 38 goals on the year for Steven
that's a
Stamkos,
low
by the
blow.
way. Lightning are very good. Another team. I do think Tampa Bay. I think we talked about this before. I think Tampa Bay is going to catch Montreal. They'll finish as the 1 in the Eastern Conference. Tampa Bay is a very, very good team. They're a team you don't want to face. Tampa, New York is looking like what it could be out to be the Eastern Conference Finals. I just feel like the top of the talent in the East is further away sometimes than sometimes in the West, but it all depends. They both have their good teams. I can't say that. That's a lie. Because I love I love the Metropolitan Division. I do. I really do like the Metropolitan Division.
No one likes the Pacific.
Nobody likes the
I'm still saying
Pacific.
Tampa for the cup.
Tampa for the cup. But that being said, again, so we talk about Dubnyk in Minnesota. Let me ask you guys about. So, are we putting the nail in the coffin for Calgary, basically?
Well, they're currently
I
still
like I like Calgary, honestly.
Okay, so
I'm
we do
impressed-
like Calgary.
I'm impressed. I think they're the best of the 3 Canadian teams that are in the Western playoffs right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
But I don't know how much that is saying, considering Winnipeg and Vancouver are pretty average.
Yeah, but once Vancouver gets Ryan Miller back, they may play better because Eddie Lack and Jakob Markstrom aren't really doing anything for them. Ryan Miller has been consistently their number 1 goaltender this year. So once Miller comes back, I think that if the Canucks are still in the playoff race, I don't think they're going to do anything special in the playoffs, but I mean, it's just a backbone that they have that's going to be
It would help.
real nice for them.
The big thing I put into them is Sean Monahan. I've been started watching Calgary a little bit more. Him and Gaudreau. I mean, there's few pairings I watch. They look like they're not elite players, but they look like they're an elite dynamic duo for the future. Because Monahan is 27 goals on the season.
He's got 51 points.
Yeah, 51 points, 27 goals, and Gaudreau's already past 50 points. I mean, those two. That's. I think a lot of people don't know how consistent they're going to be, especially if they get into the playoffs. But I'm impressed by their young guys, which is why I think there's a lot of unknowns with Calgary, which gives them a lot of upside.
So let me ask you this question right now: is Calgary finishing as the 3rd in the Pacific?
I would.
Are you going to put LA there?
I think they're close. LA has looked kind of average to me. But I think LA will get. I'm one of the few. I still think LA is going to miss the playoffs.
I do not think that.
No,
that's why I said I'm one of the very few.
Let me ask some more realistic and difficult question: Winnipeg or Calgary?
I'll say Calgary.
Calgary.
Yeah, I'll take Calgary.
I would rather probably take Calgary at this point too.
The young talent on Calgary.
I'd take both Calgary goaltenders over either one of Winnipeg's right now. Hutchinson, I think, has been better overall in the season, but he hasn't played well lately.
Again, you can't. I remember having this conversation, Hutchinson, with somebody else. So I don't think it was any of the Neutral Ice crew, but talking about how good Hutchinson was like 2 months ago, and they're going, "Oh, Hutchinson's played so well." I'm just like, he's a young goaltender. You haven't seen him in this scenario before at the NHL level on a consistent basis. You know, when you get to this time of the year for hockey, everything just turns up a little bit of another notch. Look, a la watch the New York Rangers. But one of those things, I agree with all you guys. I think Calgary's a better team, although we'll see. Where are the Sharks right now?
Best
Sharks right now are 76 points. They are not looking good right now.
8th.
By the way, quick note on Calgary: best goal differential in the Pacific Division by a good margin too.
Wow.
Yeah.
By double digits. They have plus 11 over Anaheim, which is next.
Yeah, and the Sharks can't. They get goals, and then there's other games where they can't. They're just very inconsistent offensively.
You're hot and you're cold.
Would you take Calgary over Los Angeles right now?
I would take.
I won't. I will not take.
I won't
LA
either.
is just so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I don't.
Just as inconsistent as Calgary is. They have a very young team. There's flashes of greatness from Calgary, but there's also flashes from a.
But you remember,
That's true.
you
But
guys,
I think they're closer than people.
do you
I don't
guys
think it's
remember
definitive.
2010 when the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup for the first time?
I
In
do remember that.
God knows when. But that next year, they finished as the 8th seed in the playoffs. Similar situation with the Kings. They were not great all year, and then the last 10, 15 games, they stepped it up. They were able to clinch that final spot in the playoffs, and they took the Canucks to 7 games. after the Canucks almost blew a 3-0 series lead. So I think that the Kings are in for something similar this year. Will they make it? Will they make it to the playoffs? We don't know at this point. But I think they're the best. I think they're the best team to have the chance to make the playoffs, whether it's a wild card team or a team in the Pacific Division.
Those by the way, those 3 teams right after LA that are chasing in San Jose, Colorado, Dallas, all locked up within 2 points. None of them are really out of it. I mean, Dallas is the farthest out. They're 6 points out.
Yeah.
Which that's a good margin, but it's not impossible.
It's not a bad margin either.
It's not impossible.
No, but they're like the Flyers, who technically aren't out of it, but realistically speaking, from how they've played.
See, to
Anybody
me, the difference
in the East is still in it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the difference to me, though, is in the East, you don't expect any of those teams that are in to fall out. Right now, there's a lot of people that could say Winnipeg could fall out, Calgary could fall out, Vancouver could fall out.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, there's more targets to knock out in the West.
That's a very good point, and that just talks about the competitiveness that we talked about before. Dallas being the third worst team in the West, and 6 points out of a playoff spot. Holy cow! I mean, that is shocking. It says immense about how competitive the West is, how above average a lot of those teams are in the West. They're not spectacular, but they're definitely not average.
And
so.
it also speaks to how awful Arizona and Edmonton are.
Yes, it does. But we don't talk about that. We talk positive thoughts.
Oh, no, I want all negative on them.
Oh, boy. So let me ask you guys right now. We've talked about the West a lot, and we've talked about the East. We talked about the standings and things like that. So we're moving on, and we're thinking about tonight. We have Toronto and Edmonton, and we have Arizona and L.A. And let me ask you right now, in what can only be described as one of the best-worst games of the week, Toronto versus Edmonton in Edmonton. Toronto's won their past 6 against Edmonton, although I think those stats are just a bunch of baloney. I hate those statistics where they're just like, oh, yeah, look at it. And, Bill Belichick is 21-3 against the Bills. He did happen to lose his top 3 starting quarterbacks, though, but I feel pretty good because he was 21-3 these past couple of games. No,
yeah, he was using deflated football.
Yeah, realistically speaking, Toronto gets Edmonton. Who do you guys got
Shots
tonight?
fired.
I'll take Edmonton. Coming off watching Toronto fall asleep during the Sabres game a couple nights ago.
It's hard to not fall asleep during Sabre games these days.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da. Chris.
Same with Edmonton though, and they're going on a long flight. I would expect Edmonton played well the past couple games. They were down 4-0 I think to Pittsburgh, and they came all the way back, but ended up losing 6-4. I don't know. I feel like they'll get a point.
They scored 4 goals.
If you're telling me to pick against the Leafs, I'm going to happily do it. I mean, I don't care who they're facing.
I'm not telling you anything. You have your own opinion. You're an independent man who don't need no other man to tell you how you think.
Okay, fine. I'm picking against the Leafs because Leafs.
I'm taking the Leafs because everybody else isn't.
Yeah. Hey, Chris is on the anti-Buffalo train, so.
No, okay, we were all sitting in the lobby, and you guys cheered for a Washington goal like you guys won the cup.
Hey,
don't
when
understand.
you say you guys, I did not. I did not cheer
You were
for
leading
it.
the train.
What? No. I'm honestly one of those people that still hates the tank, but I know that it's happening.
All right, stop complaining. All right, if you're
full of lies on this show today.
If you're a smart Buffalo fan and you got 15 games left in the year, you're gonna shut up and just accept the fact that you want Connor McDavid
that's
or Jack
exactly
Eichel.
what I'm doing.
So then just watch.
I'm shutting
So
up.
watch the games and keep your mouth shut. You don't have to cheer for the other
Chris,
team.
you don't have to get angry when other Buffalo Sabres fans get excited when other teams score, okay?
This is the most important stretch of games in Sabres
I expect
history.
the same treatment next year then.
So if the Devils are tanking, I have no problem
No.
with you doing that. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're not a fan. I'm going to be like, look.
I'm not saying you're not a fan. It just bothers me that you are cheering.
It will not bother me.
I agree with that, Chris.
It's because of
I
how
get that.
It's because of how important these games are right now.
No, I was more upset. No, again, the most similar situation that sports has seen about this is back with the Colts and Andrew Luck that people can relate to.
That's really kind of different in a sense, Lipa, because Peyton Manning just got hurt.
No,
so they didn't really try to.
Yeah, but once Peyton Manning got hurt, they started cursing.
I mean, Jim Irsay sent a
was
thank
just
you
a
letter to
horrible
Maurice Jones-Drew saying thanks for beating us, so we could get Andrew Luck. I mean, that's I'm talking about. I'm not saying that the Colts. I'm not saying the Colts tanked because this is not a football show. What I'm saying is that appeal of Andrew Luck. That's the type of caliber of player that people can relate to of this generation that like McDavid and Eichel pose for.
That's why I'm just shutting up and taking it because I realize, this is the reality.
This is how it is.
But I'm not cheering for a Washington goal.
You know what? I am. I don't even care. Look, I want the Sabres to have a top line center.
I just expect it to happen.
Yeah, you expect it to happen. Yeah, exactly. The Sabres are gonna lose. You want to see their players develop. I'm not looking for people to go out and look like the Durfest out there, but it's one of these things where you have to realize again, and we'll say this over and over again. You can have whatever opinion you want. You can say you're not a true fan or any of this.
But I wasn't calling you guys not true fans.
Oh, I'm not saying you specifically, Chris. I'm just saying in general.
It's like the anti-tank crowd.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I don't support cheering again. Like I understand where it's coming from.
That's totally okay, dude. I'm with you on that.
To like celebrate another team scoring is just,
because to us it's really the Sabres scoring.
It really is odd.
And to me it is.
It's
Chris, I do get where you're coming from, though. Yeah. It's very strange still, even with everything that's going on, even with the reality.
Okay, Chris.
Look at it this way.
Yeah, I know you're going to be like, if the Devils had the chance to get McDavid, but I'm not cheering for the Devils to get scored against.
I am. I'm thinking about long-term future, Chris, and long-term future is I'm rooting for my team.
Okay, so
wait, I'm sorry, we're running low on time. Like, I really wanted to pose this question.
Go for it.
When I forgot about it.
Go for it.
How different would Sabres fans be reacting right now to this tank if Jack Eichel was not in this draft?
Oh, totally.
And if it was Connor McDavid or Noah Hanifin, could you imagine how much different?
I would not be rooting because there's not a guarantee of a top line player at that point.
Because at this point, then you're fighting. You're doing this whole season for what, a 20% chance? No one's. I don't think they're getting nearly as much support.
It's not as huge of a difference. Statistically,
that's a good question.
Between one and two, but the fact of the matter is, there is Jack Eichel. I mean, you're looking. Imagine if Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning came out in the same draft, or think about Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger. That kind of situation.
Or what people thought of Luck and RG3.
Yeah, or think of it, or potentially, like an Ovechkin. Like, let's go to hockey references here, guys. Ovechkin, Crosby, exactly.
In the same draft, yeah. So. Like I said, I get the reality of it. But I do understand why Chris is saying that, it's weird to see us cheering for an opposing team's goal.
I got you.
I understand where it's coming from, and I know that the end goal is for you guys is all the same. But to like,
Anders Lindback is our goalie.
It's still weird.
Anders Lindback is our goalie.
See, it's because I'm like, honestly, I'm worried right now about
91.3 FM, WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original Turf Society 2, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. Continue, Joe.
Yeah, because it's coming. It's not really coming from me watching Washington score. I'm not happy because Washington's scoring. I'm happy because this is like negating Edmonton and Arizona because I'm really worried because they're not winning at all. So now the Sabres have to.
That's the other thing that we got to mention here is that the Sabres are historically bad this year, and like I said before, they still may not be the worst team in the NHL.
Nope, they will. They may not, and that says a lot about some of the other bad teams in the NHL. But that's gonna about just do it for us here on Neutral Ice for this week. Tune in next week. We'll be 1 week closer to the playoffs, as well as a tank report from our very own Brayton Wilson, who does a great job on that. Thanks, Brayton. Yeah, you can check Brayton out as well as all of us on Twitter with our different Twitter handle names. I'll just go through all the names. Brayton Wilson, and guys, introduce yourself.
At DBIASI85, DIBIASE85.
At Frank Carcurry, FRANKARCURY.
At Derek Kramer, 49, DEREK, KRAMER, 49.
At Chris K89, 2 Y's and K.
And I'm just at Nicholas Lippa.
You're just at Nicholas Lippa.
I'm really simple. So,
I'm just at BJ Wilson SHC.
So check us out. We love your input as far as fans are concerned, and we love you as well.
Also follow the show on Twitter at Neutralize WBNY.
So that being said, you've been listening to Neutralize. Stay tuned for some movie madness with Jason up next on WBNY.